Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Freaks Podcast. I'm your host Patrick Cummings, and today we will be talking about the Chicago Blackhawks, and we'll give a little bit of the season recap, the recent hiring of Jeff Blashwill, if I'm saying that correctly, and what the Blackhawks can do with that third overall pick. But I first want to begin with the Chicago Blackhawks season, and it was quite disappointing to say the least. The Blackhawks ended the season with a record of 25, 46, and 11. That was 8th in the Central Division, and just a lot of disappointment overall. We expected the Blackhawks to improve from the previous season. They have now gone back-to-back seasons where they've had the second worst record in the league. They brought in Teuvo Teravainen and Tyler Bertuzzi last offseason, and that's where we kind of expected the Blackhawks to improve, but unfortunately that did not happen. And let's first talk about Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen. And Bertuzzi was one of the better players on the power play. The Blackhawks, I think, were like 8th in the league in power play, and they're like middle of the road in penalty kill. I think they're like 16th in the league in the penalty kill. But Teuvo Teravainen, 15 goals, 43 assists, 58 points in 82 games. I think you would expect a little bit better from Teuvo Teravainen when it comes to these things, but I'm not too terribly upset with Teuvo Teravainen and Tyler Bertuzzi, even though they probably should have performed a little bit better. But I'm not really surprised at all the way they perform, because they're not big time players, but the Blackhawks as a team should have improved. Bedard did struggle. I think people kind of make Bedard struggle. I think they overreact to it a little bit more than what it shows. Because Connor Bedard this season, he had 23 goals, 44 assists, and 67 points. The only thing, not the only thing, but one of the things that stands out with Connor Bedard is that he took 11 fewer shots this season than in the previous season. Now, a part of that, I think, is confidence, and I will say coaching did play a role in Bedard's game a little bit. Obviously, you can see when they fired Lou Richardson, he actually got better in that time frame. But I just feel like the Blackhawks, they really underperformed this season, and there's a lot of things they need to improve on. They did get rid of Seth Jones. That is a huge relief for the Chicago Blackhawks cap space, and they brought in the goaltender in Spencer Knight, which we'll get to in a second. They traded away Taylor Hall. Obviously, they still have young guys like Lucas Reichel, Frank Nazar. They recently played, not recently, but towards the end of the season, they did play Artem Levshinov, who was the second overall pick in the 2024 draft, and he had six assists and no goals in the 18 games that he played, but he looks pretty good overall. It looked like he fit well with the Blackhawks defense. I think we're still waiting for Kevin Korchinski. This was his second season with the Chicago Blackhawks. He only had 1 goal, 1 assist, and that is a total of 2 points in 16 games. That is something that you want a little bit more from your young defenseman. And I'm not going to criticize Kevin Korchinski just yet. I criticized him a lot last season because he had some very odd turnovers but he had some very terrible turnovers that led to goals. And I just feel like, this was the season where he did regress even worse. But Kevin Korchinski is a guy, I think he still has a ton of potential. They also brought up Oliver Moore. He only played 9 games, but in those 9 games, he did average 4 assists. So I like what Oliver Moore does bring to the table here. Louis Crevier, another young defenseman we have, he only had 3 goals and 1 assist in 32 games playing. Again, I feel like a lot of these young guys are just underperforming. Ethan Del Mastro, another younger defenseman for the Blackhawks, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 24 games played. But I would not sleep on this young Blackhawks core. And here I'm gonna go to Frank Nazar and not Taylor Hall, Frank Nazar and Alex Vlasic. And right now, Frank Nazar played 53 games, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points. Now, from the looks of it, stat-wise, that's not good. That is not what you want. However, Frank Nazar actually played pretty well. I mean, he was very engaged. He was a playmaker. I feel like a lot of times he got unlucky in some areas when he was playing. But I think Frank Nazar is going to be a really, really good player for the Chicago Blackhawks team. And back to the defensive side, we got to look at Alex Vlasic, who had 30 points. 30 points as a defenseman really isn't that bad, especially when you are young. He had Alex Vlasic had 4 goals, 26 assists in 82 games played. He took a kind of a step up this year. I think Vlasic is going to be one of our better defensemen in the near future. But I think we're going to take a little bit at goaltending. Now, Spencer Knight really had kind of I want to say a down season per se. Excuse me. Spencer Knight, in the games he's played, just in total that season, because he did come from Florida. He had eight losses. He has 5 wins, 8 losses, and 2 overtime losses. They gave up 3.18 goals per game. Save percentage was at .896. I think that will go up as time goes on, because the Blackhawks, they did not have a good defense. They didn't have a well-constructed defense. But I will say, though, props to Artem Sorblum. He had 10 wins, 18 losses, and 7 overtime losses. Now, again, that may not look good from a stat perspective, but Artem Sorblum actually did improve. Because I want to say 2 seasons ago, he was regarded as probably one of the worst goaltenders of all time. However, he took a huge step up. He had an .898 save percentage. As we're going to go into kind of Sorblum a little bit here, and just his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, once I pull it up. Last season, 2023-24, he had a save percentage of .880. So he took a 18. So his save percentage went up 18%. That's pretty good for Artem Sorblum. So I would probably keep Artem Sorblum. If you can trade him, that would be nice, because then put Spencer Knight as like the number 1 goalie. But I would not hate the fact that if the Blackhawks want to rotate in Sorblum and Spencer Knight, I think that'd be a really good rotation, and that would give other teams a very hard time. And now we're gonna move on to a couple of recent things that have circled the Blackhawks meeting. Is that they have hired a new coach in Jeff Blashwill, who coached 7 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings. He was recently, I could be mistaken, but he was recently the Tampa Bay assistant head coach. And there's a lot of questions being raised about Jeff Blashwill, and I have some questions too. I don't agree with the hire, but I feel like it's one of those hires where the Blackhawks just said, hey, a lot of what we're targeting, everybody's saying no to. And a lot of coaches that we have targeted, they have rejected. And that's true. I mean, the Blackhawks do not have a clear direction of what they want to do. Yes, they want to build around Bedard, but how are you going to do that? Yes, Mitch Marner is going to be available this offseason. Do the Blackhawks want to get him? Next season, there's going to be a lot of free agents on the market, and they're big names. Rasmus Anderson, Kyle Connor, Kirill Kaprizov, Eichel, I think, but I think Vegas will re-sign Jack Eichel. But I don't know what the Minnesota Wild are going to do with Kirill Kaprizov in the near future. But kind of back to Jeff Blashwill. Obviously, he coached 7 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings. I'm going to pull up his stats. So in those 7 seasons, he had a record of 204 wins, 261 losses, 72 overtime losses with 447. 480 points in those 7 seasons. Again, I just don't think he's a good hire for the Blackhawks. He did make the postseason one time in that year. I think it was 2016, 2017. I could be wrong on that, but I think, and they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But this is not a good hire for the Blackhawks. I do not see this working out. And I will say this, though, if the Blackhawks start off next season with a record of, I'm going to say 2-7, if that's the case, I think Kyle Davidson does get fired. To me, this is the last straw. But now we head over to the 3rd overall pick, and this is going to be a little bit interesting, the way this draft is held. Originally, James Higgins was supposed to be the 1st overall pick, but that has changed. So I'm gonna give you the top 5 lot of the top 5 teams with the pick. New York Islanders number 1, San Jose at number 2, Chicago at number 3, Utah at 4, Nashville at 5. Now the Blackhawks are projected to get right winger Porter Matone. Now I think the guy that a lot of people want is Michael Misa in Chicago. He can play center and left wing, and center is desperately what the Blackhawks do need. Matthew Schaefer, if I'm saying that correctly, is supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. I don't see him going down. But I think Misa might have a chance to go down. I don't think he will, just considering what San Jose's position is, because they are in a very deep rebuild. They brought in Macklin Celebrini. I think that they have young guys like Will Smith. San Jose has a very good young core. I mean, this is not bad. I mean, yes, they did have the worst record again last year. That they finished with the worst record in back-to-back seasons with the San Jose Sharks. But I would not sleep on the Sharks' future. Macklin Celebrini did perform pretty well last season, but let's get back to the Blackhawks and Porter Matone and what he could bring to the table. Porter Matone, 6'3", 207 pounds, 18 years old. I feel like he's a guy that so for the Blackhawks, they want a goal scorer. I don't know if Matone is that, although Martone is that. That's what I'm saying. Michael Misa would be hopefully the Blackhawks' next pick in the draft. But I would not hate the idea of getting a guy like Porter Matone as I pull up his stats on this season. Porter Matone. Well, it's not really showing me a ton. But I think, Matone, he would not be a bad fit for this team. However, I will say this: Kyle Davidson did not draft a defenseman. You have way too many young defensemen. Don't draft a young defenseman in the first round. I'll say that. So use that 3rd pick on a forward. Hopefully, it's Michael Misa. He's a great goal scorer, and hopefully the Blackhawks, or hopefully Misa does fall to number 3. But that is a little bit on the Chicago Blackhawks and what the news surrounding them is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.